1. I recently encountered the horrors of nicotine poisoning when I smoked a 10-inch Cuban stogie with Mexican fish from a local Mexican restaurant. I can't do a TIFU about it because I found out about this subreddit the day after it happened, but it was literally the perfect storm. It all started when I decided that I needed to say goodbye to Isla Mujeres before I came back to my native Iowa. I bought a 10-inch Cuban cigar to do this, and then had a large meal with my family and extended family, promptly eating enough food for about 3 or 4 people. It consisted of such delicacies as locally caught fish, squid, and the general seafood mix. This is important to note for later in the story. After said wonderful dinner, I proceeded to the hotel and headed up to my adult cousin's room. We had enough family to fill 3 rooms. Kids slept on couches or floors. I proceeded to light my stogie, and they lit their smaller Cubans, and we talked for a bit, me being the youngest there. It probably took me a good 3 hours to smoke the whole thing, and at the conclusion, I headed up to my room and fell asleep. This is where the trouble starts and the perfect storm comes. At about 3:50, I get up from bed and realize that I was not feeling great, but thinking I could manage if I sit on the pot long enough to empty my initial load and go back to bed. 20 minutes later, I wake up realizing Montezuma's revenge was upon me, and if I were to survive his spite, I would have to get to the bathroom. I didn't reach it in time for the first wave. After I rolled out of bed, I got a lockjaw and puked so violently that I shit my pants. I lost control of my body. I was truly possessed by Montezuma. He kept on forcing everything in my digestive system out via nearest exit. I then puked again, but I retained my rear cannon this time. Montezuma couldn't keep everything from me. Also, this was not normal vomiting either, and I had never known projectile vomiting was a real thing that real people outside of YouTube and TV could do. It was just a stream of everything that was in my stomach that was so forcefully expelled that it splattered all over the hotel room. I had books that had puke marks. The Joys of Home Brewing, wonderful book. If you ever want to learn to home brew, read it. That were probably 3 to 4 feet off the ground, even though the puke hit the floor. Thankfully, I only unleashed 2 of the 5 projectile vomits I had that session on the floor. The rest made it to the bathroom, where I gave both ends proper attention to unload in the porcelain throne after dry heaving for a good 30 seconds. All said, it probably took me about 1 minute to empty a meal I ate over the course of an hour. And it was all digested seafood with tomato and beer mixed in. I then took off my underwear, threw it next to the shower drain, and took a pity shower. I was in such a bad shape that I didn't move for a good 10 minutes. When I got up and out, my dad caught me naked and told me to put clothes back on, to which I responded, "I shit my pants," as well as other stuff. I have the best dad ever for cleaning that stuff up. After which I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was the day we were leaving, so I proceeded to the kitchen for water. I've been told all my life when you have diarrhea or some sickness, you need to drink water. I did those people proud by drinking probably a half gallon of it. We then proceeded to go down the road in the taxi to the ferry. We waited for a good 5 minutes before I went over to the nearest trash can and emptied all the water I drank in about 5 seconds, effectively putting out any pride my doctor and health advisors had when they told me to drink water. The sound of the puke hitting the garbage bag haunts me to this day, as well as the fact that the first time I puked so much that water was all I had in my stomach. We then proceeded on to the ferry, where some nice Mexican locals gave me good vomit bags, and I keeled over, waiting for us to get to land, where we proceeded with another taxi to the airport, and I aggressively led my family to the airport terminal. I then decided that I needed to get something in my stomach, so I downed the chocolate milk and half a 32-ounce of Gatorade. I then waited for 40 minutes and went to the restroom to find all the stalls occupied. Thankfully, I had my barf bags because of 3 important things. I was second in line, the trash can was not puke accessible, but most importantly, I puked all the liquids I had into the bag, a whole quart of it. It filled it all the way up by the time I started dry heaving. The look on the guy's face in front of me was priceless. I had mucus and snot all over my face, from vomit going through my nose. Did I mention this happened every time I puked that day? And all he could respond with was, "You go next," just as the next stall became available. The rest of the day went without a hitch, besides a painful stomachache on the way back into the States. 2. This happened on Christmas Day, but I'm only getting around to posting it now. You have my apologies. The present in question needs a bit of context. For our entire lives growing up, our parents would always use the same joke to deflect questions about Christmas or birthday gifts. Namely, that they would say they are getting us wet paper if we ever tried to ask them what gifts they were getting us. Eventually, we would use this joke ourselves in various contexts. Example, "Be nice to me or I will get you wet paper for your next birthday." And it was soon a running joke among our family. Well, this year my brother, going through a bit of a teenage phase, has been very indifferent about Christmas, and staying with family in general. He's been saying he doesn't really care about getting gifts and to just get him anything really. As a result of this, I decided that, whilst I would get him a proper gift, some nice new headphones, I would also initially give him a joke present. I went out, bought some toilet paper, found a discarded cardboard box, put the toilet paper in said box, then wrote "wet paper construction kit" on the side with a marker pen. Then I put it aside and didn't really give it much thought after that point. Laughs will be had, I said to myself. Well, laughs weren't had, as I'm sure you can guess, by the name of this subreddit. You see, any other member of my family and this would have gone down well. In fact, any other year and I'm sure my brother would have been amused by it. But this year, this 1 year, is the year my brother hasn't actually been using any toilet paper, and won't be for a good few months still. The reason for this is because he was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis last Easter, and after initial treatment didn't go so well, he eventually had to have his colon removed, and from that day, he hasn't done a proper shit. Instead, he gets a slow stream of nasty fecal liquid coming out of a hole in his stomach, which goes into a bag. Or something like that, I don't really pry into it. Eventually, he will be able to have an operation to let him poop kind of normally again. But that's at least a year away for him. He's a fairly stoic character, so he didn't break down into tears or anything, and I think he did even see the funny side of it. But the pain of reminding him what he deals with every day was a bit too much, even for him, and he was visibly upset when opening it. I've tried apologizing, but even at the time of writing, he's still a bit pissed off at me. 3. This happened a few weeks ago. I get home from class in the afternoon. I still live with my parents and live close to my uni. And I'm really hungry, so I decide to make myself a tasty sandwich. My mother, bless her heart, loves lighting little candles around our house since it's winter and it's cold and grey outside. So there's a little candle burning right in the middle of our kitchen table, where I'm making my sandwich. I think nothing of it since I'm used to seeing candles everywhere at this point. So I begin preparing my sandwich. I grab some bread out of the bag, I spread some butter on it. I get some cheese and ham and slap it on there, resulting in a nice delicious sandwich. Nothing fancy, but enough to keep my stomach from rumbling like a whale with Tourette's. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? That's what I thought too. I'm happily munching away at my snack, staring out of the window, contemplating life and the questions that keep us all up at night, like, why do sharks get to have two dicks? When my sister walks into the kitchen, being the friendly brother that I am, I acknowledge her presence by mumbling, "Hey, what's up?" She turns around and I get really confused because there is a look on her face that I can't really describe, and that I now realize with a look of sheer, unadulterated terror. She looks in my direction and immediately starts screaming, "Oh my god, shit, what did you do?" And my first thought was, Jesus Christ, keep it down, what the fuck is your problem? Can't you let a man eat his sandwich in peace? And then it hit me. The smell of something burning and a hint of toast. So I look to my left to find out what's bothering her so much. And I see this huge fire spreading out across our table. The fucking paper bread bag had fallen over onto the burning candle and had gotten up in flames instantly. All the while I was just calmly enjoying my sandwich, staring out of the window, completely oblivious to the fact that a fucking inferno was developing right next to me. At this point, my mother storms into the room in reaction to my sister's yelling. And let me tell you, my sister's voice really gives any commercial fire alarm a run for its money when it comes to pure volume and the level of annoyance it's able to induce. And she discovers her 2 adult children standing completely immobile around a burning kitchen table like 2 lobotomized Neanderthals. After undoubtedly making a mental note to scrap both of us out of her will, she immediately takes action. But instead of grabbing some water or a blanket or something, she grabs the burning bread bag, throws it on the kitchen floor, and starts stomping on it like a madwoman. The pure absurdity of this scene snaps me out of my daze, and I manage to put out what's still burning on the table, while charred pieces of bread are practically flying through the room. Finally, all the flames have gone out, and all that is left is a cloud of grey smoke that fills the kitchen. Result: 1 terrified sister, 1 furious mother. A ruined pair of shoes because the soles had melted, and worst of all, we were out of bread, and I was still hungry. 4. So at the time of my FU, I was living with a couple of drug addicts in a somewhat run-down area of town. I was working full-time and going to school, so I had to live in suboptimal conditions to make ends meet. The area we lived in was actually in the process of being gentrified, but we were lucky enough to live there when it still had... character? All this to say that our place wasn't very nice nor well kept, except for my room. I kept it spotless. It was my little oasis from the rest of the filth you'd find in the shared living space. Oftentimes I'd come home after staying at my girlfriend's, at the time, place for a couple of days, and there'd just be fast food wrappers and empty beer cans covering every surface of the living room and kitchen. I knew to keep anything I actually wanted to consume locked away in my bedroom, otherwise it would disappear, or worse yet, there'd be a random bite or scoop or sip missing, and I'd usually have to finish it because I couldn't afford to throw away anything at the time. On to the FU. I came home from work one night and I hadn't had anything to eat all day. I bought some groceries the day before, including a bag of powdered sugar Sweet 16 donuts. It was a rare sweet treat. I kept all of my food on some shelves just inside the doorway of my room. So I opened the door and, without turning on the light because starving, grab the unopened bag of donuts, rip it open, and pop one in my mouth. I barely had time to set the bag down and start chewing when I felt tiny prickles begin to engulf my tongue and cheeks. Prickles turned to needles, and before I could register what was happening, my mouth was on fire. I ran to the sink and started spitting out the donut, which was covered with dozens and dozens of ants. I was spitting and rinsing for a solid 5 minutes. My mouth was swollen and burning. My eyes and nose were watering. I was concerned I might be allergic for a moment when my tongue started swelling. Luckily, it stopped before obstructing my airway. It's possible that none of that would have happened if my roommates had kept a cleaner house. but I blame myself for getting desperate and not bothering to turn a light on before shoving a donut in my face. 5. This story really starts last week, technically, when a friend of mine gave me some bean-boozled jelly beans. For those that don't know, they look like regular ones, but there's a chance that they taste of something horrible. Most of them are fairly innocent, like toothpaste, lawn clippings. Those actually taste like summer smells. Booger, I wonder who had to find out if that tasted right when they made it, and so on. There's also ones that taste of vomit, though. And they really do taste like vomit, that weird sourish smell. Now, today, I was going home for Christmas. It's on the evening of the 24th in Denmark. And my parents have several bowls of candy at home with various stuff in it for Christmas, including jelly beans. So of course I thought it would be really funny to mix a couple of these disgusting ones in. You know, like when you mix some Skittles in a bowl of M&Ms, or the other way around. My brother was the first to take a handful, and he got the toothpaste one. Told him what was going on after he spit it out, and we all thought it was funny. No issue there. The problem was that we all kind of forget about my innocent little prank until we hear silence from the living room. Anyone who's been around kids will know that's not a good sign. And then a weird wet noise. That is about the time that I start to realize what has happened. Because my niece happens to love the peach and coconut jelly beans. So she'd gathered a nice handful of them after carefully digging through the bowl, and eaten the whole handful in one go. The coconut ones taste like baby wipes. Yeah, I have no idea. So, not too bad, I guess. The peach jelly beans are the ones that taste like vomit, though. My thought process at this point is something like, fuck. So, fun fact. When a 4-year-old kid tastes vomit, well, apparently they vomit themselves, and when 2 3-year-olds see and smell a 4-year-old kid vomiting, guess what? They vomit too. So, in about 2 minutes we go from having a great time, about to be opening presents, to having 3 kids vomiting all over because I wanted to make a nice, little, innocent prank. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Embarrassing Stories, episode 26. Thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you happen to have sent a TIFU story in to me and it hasn't appeared in this video, please don't worry, I am going to be using it. I'll be using them in the upcoming weeks. Well, here we are. It is December the 31st. That is another year just about done with. As of when this video is released, I think we have about, let's see, this will be 5 o'clock UK time. So that gives us 7 hours of 2016 left. If you haven't already begun celebrating yet, then please, when you do, have a good time by all means, but be careful. I want to make sure you guys make it through another year. I want to make sure we all make it through another year. So just have fun, but be cautious. And if you happen to screw anything up embarrassingly over the new year, please do send it in to me within the next couple of weeks. I, for one, will hopefully be having a quiet new year. I intend to just go around to my sister's house and spend it with my family there. And then I will get lost after about an hour, because that's quite enough socializing for me. I hope everyone has a good 2017. There were a number of bright spots for me this year, but there was also many bad things that happened in the world. So let's hope for a brighter 2017. I'll just give you a quick update before I go. As was with Christmas last week, no changes to the scheduled uploads. We will have True Scary Stories tomorrow. The outro on that one's a little bit long, but I just kind of opened my mouth and kept going. I'm recording these in the wrong order, I do that sometimes. Just whatever I'm in the mood to do first. And we should proceed as normal through the week. We'll have subscriber stories on Tuesday, more scary stories on Wednesday, Glitch, Paranormal, Thursday, Friday, and hopefully TIFU on Saturday. We shall see. And with that, I think I'll be heading off for now, so until next time, and until next year, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.